Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1979's Come Under My Spell. There's the poster for it right there. 1979's Come Under My Spell, and this is directed by the infamous Carlos Tobalina. Released in 1979, 82 minutes long, and part of the Vinegar Syndrome Peakorama Big 2-unit show with Lady Dynamite, which I'm also looking at on this YouTube page. And Carlos Tobalina is a director that I've looked at many times on this YouTube page, an X-rated director, and predominantly X-rated films. And this is definitely, to me so far, and I've looked at lots of his movies so far on this YouTube page, one of his weirdest, wildest, off-the-wall, and funniest films that I've seen from him so far. Definitely occupying another world, another headspace. This is Come Under My Spell. These are some screenshots from the back of the DVD right here, if you can see. And the poster for this is insane because it says at the top, it's a hilarious comedy, but it separates come and dash dy. Satisfaction guaranteed, you'll come again in all caps. And then the lead guy, who I don't believe I've ever seen before, his name is Fernando Fortes. It says in parentheses, the world's best comedian. Yes, and if you look at this poster, we have artwork in there, and we also have a shot from the film. And then look at the word come. It has white around it dripping off, and then a little necklace at the bottom there that is in the film. I got to tell you here, folks, if you are into wild, weird, crazy cinema, Come Under My Spell, if you're adventurous enough, Come Under My Spell is definitely a film that you will want to take in a journey with. This is a college guy buddy film. Two guys and their sexual adventures. The one guy more sexually experienced than the other. The other guy kind of almost a foreign exchange student type of vibe. Latino, broken English. And he is the one who's really not having sex, and his American friend is having sex, and there's frustration there, and there's creepiness with the Latino guy Fernando here, and all of a sudden, a book, Sex by Hypnotism, or Sex Through Hypnotism. And all of a sudden, Fernando is having tons of sex, using a book to hypnotize women to have sex with him and his friend as well. Now, Carlos Tobalina did another film involving hypnotism with I believe, a counselor that I looked at on this YouTube page. I believe that was called Super Sex. So you can find that on this page as well. But this has a totally different vibe because it is college guys. There's an awesome 70s van in this film. So it looks like it's straight from the film Mag Wheels or Summer School, which I looked at on this YouTube page as well. And great paint job on the van, great wheels, great interior on the van. And this is a wild, wild movie. There are so many things to talk about for this film. I mean, I mean, it's insane. We have I guess an late 70s version of a pocket vagina, or pocket pussy as they would call it. And we have just a real sexually frustrated Fernando here, who just desperately wants to have sex, and it really reminds you of those movies like Revenge of the Nerds and Porky's and all the teen sex comedies, but X-rated style. And, you have the guys who are experienced and the one guy who's not experienced and that one guy who desperately wants to have sex. And this is where the movie deviates and all hell breaks loose, so to speak. All sexual hell breaks loose. All craziness comes through this film. Oh my gosh, there are so many things here. We have two guys having sex with, two separate girls, in the same room, I believe on the same bed. And whoops, the one friend ejaculates on the other friend's back. The other friend gets angry and punishes him in a way that only a movie about sexual hypnotism could do. We also have a massive sex scene, and there's a dog just kind of sitting in the room next to one of the naked bodies while people are having sex in the room. Extremely, extremely bizarre scene right there. We have a section of this film. Oh my gosh, there's so much wildness in this movie. We have a section of this film where an entire wedding party is hypnotized sexually, including the bride, the groom, and there are repercussions from that as well. There is so much wildness in this film. There is so much hilarity when Fernando is hypnotizing women in the simplest of terms. I've never seen hypnotism this simple before, and in the simplest of terms. And then he kind of hypnotizes him and says, "Okay, now we're gonna fuck." I mean, just the way the stuff he says. Well, okay, we're gonna suck and fuck. You know, everything that just comes out of his mouth is just hilarious. There's a section where there's women jogging, and he's going up to them with his little necklace, and he's just kind of throwing it in their face, and they're getting hypnotized like immediately while they're jogging, and then he gropes the women to see if he wants to follow through with it, and if he doesn't, then he snaps out and just continues running by them. This character is so creepy in a funny way as well, and so not politically correct to our modern 2018 times. I mean, it is so outrageous. You know, he just, it's where the teen sex comedies just maybe wouldn't go or couldn't go because of the rating of R that this film will go. You know, he sees two girls, you know, he's really interested in them, so he just grabs their vagina, grabs their breasts. I don't think I want this one, and then moves on to the next one. I mean, there is, in this film, there is death by sex. Yes, there is death by sex. There is sex addiction. There is hospitalized exhaustion. In this film, we even have some, just as if I didn't say already, some insane gender issues in this film where you find out a backstory of Fernando that, oh, he has a fiance back home who's going to be visiting soon, and she's a virgin. She's been saving herself for him. But Fernando has been banging everything possible around him. So interesting. And in that alternate universe of X-rated films, of X-rated cinema, of adult cinema, in that alternate universe where responses are different, commitments are different, free love, and the aspects of the differences between men and women. At the same time, we have a pizza girl in this film who's one of my favorite girls in the film, as a pizza girl who gets hypnotized as well and actually shortchanged. Craziness. And she has a shirt on that says tits for tat or tit for tat. All the girls in this film are sexually attractive. You're going to recognize maybe a couple faces, definitely. There is a tremendous amount of style in this film. From the opening credits, you can find out right off the bat, just in the fonts and the words in the credits, and you're going to see just a tremendous amount of style. We have sped up sex scenes a la Clockwork Orange. We have these crazy edited montages of sex, of things that are going on inside of somebody's head, or did it really happen? We have zooms and reverse zooms. We have just crazy. We have driving sequences. We have hotel rooms. We have shots on the outside of a hospital. Carlos Tobalina doesn't have anything really going on in terms of one of his locations, I don't believe. A lot of his films, he'll be shooting one of his own homes or properties, I believe. In this film, I don't really think that is happening, although it could be happening in one location or two locations, but it looked like a hotel room predominantly. There is just wild sequences. There's an art show outside that the one character is kind of looking at, and he's looking also for women. And he sees this sculpture of a woman's head, you know, this like sculpture, and he kisses it. He freaking kisses it. I mean, it is craziness. And I can't stress enough that Fernando is so creepy. He's got his glasses on, he's got his kind of hiked up pants, he's got like a winter cap on, and he's looking around for women to have sex with, for women to hypnotize, even in a parking lot. And brings him back to the hotel room, and it is just it's total insanity. Lesbian scenes, massive wedding party orgy with a dog kind of walking around, a cute little white dog, which is just so taboo and weird in its own right. And there is this insane twist ending to this film that borders the horror genre, and it is so comedic at the same time that it's just outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. I can't stress enough how outrageous the ending of this movie is. Now I want to talk about I mean, if you like the movie Maniac with Joe Spinell, mix that in with the teen sex comedy, maybe, especially for the climax of this film. Now, I will tell you, musically, Carlos Tobalina always has wall-to-wall music, and this film is no exception. But Come Under My Spell, hands down, to me, has the most diversity of styles of music in a Carlos Tobalina film that I have seen. In this film, we have blues, we have country, we have 70s rock, we also have 70s kind of smooth rock. We also have jazz, like 70s jazz, 70s jazzy funky, 70s smooth jazzy funky. We also have kind of mystical, ethnic type music, maybe bordering on Middle Eastern, exotic sitar, maybe. Lots of organ, 70s organ play in all the music in this film. And then, out of nowhere, we have a section of the soundtrack where there is audience applause. Almost it sounds like it could be for a bullfight. And simultaneously, there is something that you don't typically see physically, in a way, in an X-rated film when a guy is penetrating a girl, and the way that he's doing it is just kind of bizarre. And then you hear this audience applause. What? Where did that come from? And then we also have a piece of music in here that's super funky. There's also pieces of music that are very kind of 70s exploitation movie sounding, really funky, groovy. And there's one piece of music I might have heard in another Carlos Tobalina film before that I looked at on this YouTube page. I think it sounded familiar, but it's just so freaking funky and groovy and awesome. It's so great. And the sex scenes are awkward in and of themselves as well, which also adds to the weirdness and wildness of Come Under My Spell. Fernando has an awkwardness to him in his sex scenes. Carlos Tobalina is repeating ejaculation scenes as well. We also have sections of the film where it looks like one person is being cut to be the other one. Because maybe he couldn't ejaculate. People aren't hard sometimes, but then they're hard, and the editing is very bizarre. It's the editing is kind of switching sometimes characters that are in the same position but at different times. It's some wild stuff going on in this film. And then Fernando really starts to get his mojo on as the movie goes on, though. So the sex scenes don't become as awkward. So it really fits with the storyline, actually. Then there's a really bizarre intercourse shot where there's blood on the penis and coming out of the vagina. Guess she was having her period at the time. Very, very bizarre, which also leads to the storyline. If you're just randomly grabbing women and sexually hypnotizing them off the street, well, I guess you don't really know what's going on, now do you? There's a woman with a pretty strong hairline going from her belly button to her pubic region in this film. There's just a lot of women that I've never seen before, which is always great. And Fernando's friend looks like a vampire. There's a couple close-up shots of his face in this film, and it looks like the white makeup is so caked on his face. It's so freaking, like, weird. Like, from a distance, he looks kind of normal, but then you see him up close, and you're like, oh gosh, he looks like disturbing or something. Like something's like off with him. There's a lot of there are some sections of some great face close-up shots of kind of sexual emotion, which is very similar. Also, I found in Tobalina's film Lady Dynamite, which is also on this same DVD actually, but kind of focusing on the face in a couple scenes, which you can kind of get a screenshot of on the poster art for this film. But focusing on the face and not only the women, but predominantly the women, and this one woman in particular who's on the cover, but also the guys as well. There are jokes in this film about bestiality. There are jokes about homosexuality, and it is they are so outlandish. It is so freaking outlandish. It's unbelievable. We have church shots, we have college shots, we have hospital shots in this film. I got to tell you, it is totally bizarre and amazing. This is 1979's "Come Under My Spell" by Carlos Tobalina, right there, folks. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarre YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like 1979's Come Under My Spell. Thank you so much, and good night.